want to beat that guy, but what is this Twilight thing you're mentioning?
Oh, you don't know Twilight?
The hell is Twilight?
Those movies that came out like 10 years ago, you know, about like the girl who falls in love with the vampire, but she also has a friend who's a werewolf. And she has to choose between, like, you know, whether she's going to fall in love with, like, you know, Team Edward or Team Jacob. You don't remember that?
Chad?
You're giving me a very confused look right now.
Yes, I am.
You don't know what Twilight is. One of the biggest movie franchises ever of the last 15 years.
No.
You don't know Twilight.
Is Twilight?
But you went to school with kids at that time. There was no kids at your school that loved Twilight.
No.
There was no kids at your school who had like the book in their backpack or the book in their locker.
No.
That's a fucking lie.
No, for real.
No, that's a fucking lie because it's one of the biggest book series ever, and it's one of the biggest movie franchises of the 2010s.
Never seen any of my friends. I never seen them hold that book. No.
Oh my god, you're capping right now.
I'm not. I don't know none of this. So I'm looking.
How can you not know what Twilight is?
Okay, so Twilight.
It's like you're saying like Eclipse, you don't know what Harry Potter is.
Breaking Dawn Part 2. What the?
You don't know what Twilight is. Oh my god. What the hell? Like, what were you doing between 2008 and 2012?
Watching anime, playing games, watching more anime, playing games, working.
But when you went to the movie theater, you didn't see a Twilight trailer play?
I wasn't really into movies or seeing trailers of any kind.
Like when you went to go see like some Transformers shit or something, or like the first Iron Man or whatever the fuck, you didn't see a trailer for any of that?
No.
Any of that shit? Like when you went to, oh my god.
No, I have not.
Oh my god.
All right.
Okay, so now we are officially recording.
Bird is the word. Do you know about the word? Everybody knows that bird is a word. Do you know about the word? Bird is the word. All right. Sorry.
All right. Welcome to another special episode of the Anime Match Good podcast. As always, I am your humble host, Jack. With me is
Ryu. What's up, guys? We're back. How you like the last episode?
Nice.
I wasn't in it because there was a whole lot of argument, which I agree at some points, but morally, I like Simpsons more than Family Guy and South Park.
Well, by the sounds of that song that you gave us at the beginning, it seems like you were more of a Family Guy fan.
Oh, hell no. I love Family Guy as its episode alone, but honestly, I agree. The cutaways carry. Like, honestly, the cutaways carry Family Guy a lot.
But I actually do like some of those cutaways. Those are
some of the cutaways
moments.
are really good. So I'm not like dissing on them. I really love some of the cutaways because they're funny. But honestly, my God, the Samantha, the one, she didn't even protect her show.
Oh damn,
she was just dogging on it.
She's gonna be pissed at you when she hears this episode.
I don't care what you're gonna do. Fire me? Hell no. There's multiple differences, but there's one big difference between me and her. I got a car. I can drive myself away.
All right, then. All right. So today we got a pretty cool episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about the 2019 art house horror classic, The Lighthouse.
Yay!
But before we talk about that film, we're going to be talking about a couple of news items before we jump into that. So the first bit of news that I do want to talk about is the writer's strike. So my lovely co-host, have you heard about the writer's strike that's going on in Hollywood right now?
I have not. I only knew that they were having a strike about something. I didn't go into depth of it because the time I saw it was when I was at work. So I didn't much have time to research myself.
All right. But do you know how that sort of affects like movies and TV in general?
It's basically, to my point, understanding of what I read, is it's stopping future movies and all movies that are being worked on right now to be on a halt because of something, right? Like, I don't know what happened, but something has to happen because of them striking. Yeah. So do you know any more in depth of it?
All right. So let me just sort of break down what's going on right now. So the WGA, which is the Writers Guild of America, is going on strike. So that means no Hollywood movies or TV shows are being worked on at the moment. So all of the writers have essentially walked out of their jobs, and they're picketing. They're in front of studios and in front of production places, and they're picketing. They're protesting. Okay. And the reason is because the WGA and the studios, which is like Disney, Universal, Netflix, Amazon, all those studios couldn't agree upon a contract, a renewed contract for the writers, because the contracts expired early this month.
Oh, okay. What was the original contract?
So the original contracts, they're very different. They're very outdated from how like media is made and consumed today. One of the reasons why the writers have like a lot of problems, or they have a lot of disagreements with the way that studios are basically running TV shows and movies, is that it's really screwing over writers. One of the things that is really affecting them is residuals. So do you know what residuals are?
No, I was about to ask, what is that word? Because I never heard that word before.
So when you work in Hollywood and you write TV and movies, once the movie or the TV show is out, every month or so, you if you're a writer, you get checks every time your episode or your movie is aired on like TV or sold on DVD, sold to Netflix, iTunes or whatever. Ooh. So every month you're supposed to receive a check. But because the way that people view media nowadays is so much more different than the way that they viewed it back when the original contracts were written.
All right, cool.
Because of streaming, a lot of movies and TV aren't being showed like on TV as much anymore. They're appearing mostly on like Netflix and other streaming services. So the amount of money that writers are receiving nowadays is much less than what they received back in the day. And so the writers wanted to renegotiate their contracts so that they can get better pay for their residuals. Also, one thing that's affecting the writers, one thing that the WGA is mad about the studios is that the studios basically are paying writers the minimum amount that they can be paid as per union rules. So a lot of writers, especially experienced writers, are being paid less, or they're being paid as much as new, fresh, up and coming writers. So people with like a lot of experience aren't being paid what they're worth if
they were a newbie.
Yeah, if they're so people,
that's fucked.
Yeah, and so like I said, a lot of TV shows have stopped production. Also, a lot of movies that are in development right now are not being worked on right now. So like movies that were already greenlit by the studios, if the writers of those projects haven't already turned in their first drafts, their final drafts, those movies are not going to be worked on right now until this strike is over. This is actually the first writer strike since 2007.
Wait, there was another strike in 2007? What the hell?
To my knowledge, there have been at least three. So the one that's happening right now, the one in 2007, and then the last one before that was in 1988, I want to say. But I'm mostly familiar with the 2007 one because I was watching a lot of TV at the time, and I was paying attention to a lot of movies at the time. So when that happened, a lot of TV shows in 2007, when that writer strike happened, a lot of TV shows shortened their seasons. So shows like Saturday Night Live, Conan O'Brien, and a lot of sitcoms and a lot of dramas had to shorten their shows. And so because those writers went on strike, a lot of shows, especially shows that had like a lot of continuity or a lot of ongoing storylines, they had to cut their storyline short, and the writers had to like rewrite, or the producers and the writers had to rewrite the stories that were going on so that it wouldn't be too much affected by the strike. And so that kind of did a lot of damage to a lot of TV shows. But
okay.
But not for like any malicious intent. The writers didn't do this strike just to fuck over like the viewers and the fans.
I'm assuming they did it because they wanted to be treated more better and get paid more, right?
Yeah, and get paid what they were worth.
Gotcha.
So
that's a worthy reason to get striked.
Yeah, and so the big reason about the 2007 writer's strike is that they were fighting for DVD residuals, because back in 2007 that was the hike
of DVDs being sold and everything.
Exactly, and so if you're a writer and you write for a show and then that show gets sold into syndication, like it plays all over the world, or if the show gets put on not YouTube, Netflix or iTunes, you get a check every month for your show being distributed to other places. And so one of the big things that they were striking in that strike back in 2007 is they were striking for better residuals on DVDs, because like you said, it was the height of DVD consumption.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid during that time, I loved when DVDs out, because when I was born, VHS.
Yeah, VCRs.
Yeah, VCRs were like the big thing back at the time. That was like all sold. And then once they sold out DVDs, it was like the peak of everything, like for music, burning music and everything. Like DVDs were used for everything now.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, I loved the VCR because I liked putting it in, hearing the noise going, making all the noises. Now DVDs just quiet, just goes
all digital. All digital, no analog.
Yeah, none of that. Because at my peak of my childhood, I loved cranking it up back to the beginning, letting it play, rewinding it all the heat, seeing all the pictures going forward and everything. But now, when you want to rewatch the movie, you just play, replay, and it goes right back to the beginning.
Yeah, and so that was like the big thing. Also, what they were fighting for was residuals on internet content, because at the time in 2007, that was like the dawn of YouTube, and so a lot of true. And so a lot of movie studios and a lot of like TV networks were putting like clips of their shows and movies on TV, and so writers wanted to negotiate residuals for that content. And so that original strike, that 2007 strike lasted about 110 days. And
110 days?
Yeah, so it lasted from November up until November of 2007 till like February of 2008. So it affected Hollywood for quite a bit. And so for the most part, writers were able to get what they wanted with some compromise. But unfortunately, what happened during that 2007 strike, a lot of negative things happened to the entertainment business. So around that time, Hollywood decided to focus less on scripted shows, and they decided to focus more on reality television. Because I don't know if you remember, around that time, that was also when like shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Pawn Stars, Kitchen Nightmares, Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, Pawn Stars. Yeah, I seen Pawn Stars.
Yeah, so those shows came out after, like a lot of those shows premiered after the writer's strike of 2007. And so around that time, a lot of TV networks were focusing a lot more on reality television. Also, like on the major networks like Fox and NBC, they were focusing on these talent shows like America's Got Talent, The Voice, American Idol. So they were focusing more on reality television instead of scripted television in the past.
I got a question. Well, during the whole strike, was Cartoon Network also affected from it as well?
Yes, and good thing you mentioned that. So after the 2007 strike, Cartoon Network, so if you remember back in the day, Cartoon Network was exclusively cartoons and animation. Yeah, that's
what I was thinking, like Cartoon Network should have been like really affected, because I remember like during my childhood, I remember a lot of people doing shows like Build and Destroy.
Yeah, Destroy, Build, Destroy.
I remember.
There was that roller coaster one where people were answering questions.
Yes, that one. Yeah. I remember all of that when I was a kid. I was wondering why is the cartoons.
What would happen? So Cartoon Network was
and Zack and Cody.
Yeah, so a lot of those
Zeke
shows.
And Luther.
Yeah, so a lot of those shows were the result of the writer's strike. So in a weird way, well, not in a weird way, but in sort of like a nefarious way, Hollywood punished a lot of writers because reality shows don't need to be written the same way that a scripted show needs to be written. They don't need a writer's room.
No, they don't. They can just work it along the way.
So a lot of people see the rise and the boom of reality television around that time as sort of like Hollywood punishing the writers for striking, like it was like Hollywood being salty over like the new negotiations that they had to do with the writers.
Ah, boo.
But also at the same time, after that strike was also what people call the golden age of television. That was around the same time that shows like Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, those were like that was the time when those TV shows were really starting to become popular, and people were still, even though there was a lot of reality TV show, there was still a lot of good scripted TV shows coming out at that time, and so that kind of leads us to like the place we are right now. So in that original strike, the writers were fighting for DVD residuals. Now
they're fighting for internet residuals now.
Yeah. So now what the complaint that a lot of writers have right now is that they're not being paid properly for their shows being on Netflix, being on HBO Max or Amazon TV. So they're fighting for better residuals. And so that's one of the main reasons that they're striking right now. And Hollywood doesn't want to compromise to give the writers better residuals, because a lot of writers rely on their residuals every month to help, to help pay for their bills, pay for their mortgages and stuff like that.
And families to support as well.
Exactly. And so one of the problems is that a lot of writers are claiming that on these Netflix shows and on these streaming shows is that the producers are really abusing their power. So the things that they say that producers do is that oftentimes producers force writers to work for free in order for them to get like their full paycheck.
The hell?
Because oftentimes in Hollywood, and this happens to like directors and actors as well, is you would hear like, oh, this director got paid $100,000 to direct this Marvel movie, or this actor got paid $20 million to star in the new Star Wars movie. So they don't get paid all that money up front. The way that it works is that they get paid either weekly or monthly. And they get that money. So usually a writer, if they promise a writer to pay them $20,000 to write a season of TV or to write an episode, they're going to be paid in increments. They're not going to be paid all at once. But if you get like a shady producer who wants like extra work done on a season or an episode, a lot of these producers have basically like twisted the arms of the writers, saying, hey, if you don't do this extra rewrite for this show, we're not going to pay you the rest of your money, or we're going to withhold it for longer.
Hell? That's shady as hell.
Yeah, and also one of the problems that a lot of the writers are talking about with this strike is that a lot of writers with over like years and decades of experience, they're being paid the same amount as like a writer who's fresh and new to the business.
What the heck? That's crap. What the heck?
So a lot of like seasoned experienced writers, what they're claiming is that a lot of like producers and a lot of networks are only paying them like the minimum union requirement that a company is supposed to pay the writer, even if the writer has like over 20 or even 30 years experience working in the business.
That's basically bullcrap.
Yeah.
Like all these senior writers are supposed to be paid because of their experience and their good writing.
Yeah, because like that's because directors and actors, if a director directed a very successful movie, in his next movie he can ask for more money to direct a different project. And an actor, like look at someone like say Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt can go to a movie studio and say, all right, you guys, I want $50 million. I did Guardians of the Galaxy. I did Jurassic World. I did the Mario movie. So pay me $50 million to star in your next blockbuster. But unfortunately, writers get the short end of the stick. and oftentimes in these negotiations. And but the thing is like these writers, they're not asking for like to be paid like the same as like say Chris Pratt or somebody.
You just want to be paid a little bit more for
something that's a little bit more reasonable, because something that's kind of affected also a lot of writers is inflation, because their salaries are not being adjusted. Inflation is really taking a toll on a lot of writers. I've even read some things on like Twitter and some interviews of other writers saying that, hey, you know, I was working on this show for Fox, but because of the money that they were paying me, I couldn't afford heat for my apartment. Stuff like that. And you know, and like I've even heard like Twitter stories or just like stories in general of like writers like, oh yeah, I won the Emmy for that episode I wrote, but I had to like, you know, I didn't have enough money to buy myself a new tie or something to like go to the ceremony, so I had to wear like a cheap ass tie, you know. And then that's so ridiculous, because you know, these people, the writers, they're the ones who make the shows that you like to watch and stuff like that. So they're the ones who are being treated very poorly.
Oh, I have a question. I don't know if they're involved as well. Does it involve also writers who structure video games as well, like writes down the story and everything for games? I
think that's a little bit different.
Different? Okay. Because I thought there's also writers for video games as well.
Yeah. So I haven't heard anything on their front, because right now the WGA, I think it only covers just movies and TV.
Okay.
And so I haven't heard anything about video game writers, because I think that's just like a whole other industry in itself, because the big beef is between the Screenwriters Guild and the major studios. So I don't think like I just think that's like a whole different like industry altogether. So I don't think it has anything to do with that.
All right, cool. Just a question. I was wondering, since we were talking about writers, I thought the people who writes down for video games and future productions for games were also involved in that as well.
No, I just think that's different. I just I don't think that's like the same industry. I think that's like that's a whole different like beast altogether.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, so that's one of the things that's happening. So right now, no movies and no TV shows are being worked on right now. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how this is going to affect the entertainment industry going forward, because like I said, that strike that happened in 2007, we're still seeing the ramifications of what happened after that strike. So a lot of reality TV and also a lot of movies also changed, because back then, before like the 2010s, a lot of studios. So here's the thing. So I don't know if you've noticed, most studios nowadays mostly only want to focus on movies that cost like $200 million or $300 million to produce.
Like the Avengers and all that?
Yeah, like that. They're not really interested in doing like more smaller movies. Because back in the day, you would get like all types of movies. You would get like, you know, dramas, comedies, horror movies, and then you would also get like, you know, big action movies, big comic book movies. But now, I don't know if you've noticed, most of the movies that come out nowadays are either like they're a comic book movie, or they're based on a book, or they're based on a video game. And so a lot of writers, they can't really make a living like writing their own original like material. So it's made like less and less jobs for writers. But also like those writers also have moved on to TV, but TV also has its problems in terms of like paying their writers properly. So it's a whole big shit show right now over there.
It's a whole different situation.
Exactly. So we'll see how that's going to affect movies going forward. But also, speaking of movies going forward, did you hear about the Moana remake?
I just knew that they were making a remake of a movie. I didn't get into it. So why they're remaking Moana? I thought Moana was...
So Disney a few weeks ago released this weird, it's not even a trailer, it's Dwayne Johnson on a beach, and I think he's with his daughters. He's with two little girls who I assume are his daughters. And he's talking about like, oh, Moana, it's made such an impact. It's the new favorite movie of a generation, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, okay. And then in the video, he announces, oh, we're going to remake Moana in live action, and I'm coming back as Maui.
What?
And yeah, and like Moana came back Moana was released in 2016. That's less than 7 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what the heck? Why they're remaking that movie?
I don't know. Like, Moana has been a big hit for Disney, not only just in the box office, but it also has sold a lot of merch. Because I remember I was actually working in Target the year Moana came out, and I remember in the toy aisle there was a lot of Moana merch. Even like a year after, there was still tons of Moana merch, and so Moana has been a big cash cow for Disney. But I just don't understand why they would remake Moana, because Moana hasn't even been out for that long. They're gonna be remaking Lilo and Stitch pretty soon.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited about that. Yes.
And so Lilo, but here's the thing: Lilo and Stitch has been out for the original came out 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So there is nostalgia for that one, but I just feel that with Moana, it's only 7 years old. There's barely any nostalgia for it.
No, not really. No, there's no nostalgia regardless of that. Because Moana's not that much big. I've seen Moana. I like the story of it. But it was like, I'm an adult when I saw that.
Exactly.
And because I watched it with family and also little kids around because they wanted to watch it.
Exactly. So it's just so odd. The reason I think maybe why Moana is being made into a movie is probably because of Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson is probably, Dwayne Johnson probably has like some friends at the Disney company, and he's a big star. His movies make a lot of money. So he probably went to them saying, "Hey guys, how about Moana?" Or maybe they went to him and saying, "Hey Dwayne, how about a Moana remake?" Because also, what I don't understand is why not make a Moana sequel, Moana Part 2? Instead of
that would be made way more sense. Why make a remake of it?
Because also, I think maybe because I don't know if I've never seen Frozen 2, but what I understand is a lot of people didn't like Frozen 2.
I've seen Frozen 2, and the whole concept of the story is basically them going to a different area of elements that is like going rapid because of their families fucking up their agreement of something.
Yeah.
And I forgot the one that has the ice powers. Elsa was the one that was supposed to like stop it all because the elements of that nation gave her abilities for her to one day come back to stop the whole thing, because apparently she was the princess of their nation to calm every elements down. She's basically the avatar that controls the spirits, basically. Yeah,
but the point that I was trying to make with Frozen 2 is
it didn't work out.
Yeah, it just didn't work out, and I don't think it made more than the original, because that original was so big. So it probably didn't do what Disney wanted it to do in terms of box office. So that's probably a reason why they're not going to do a Moana 2. Instead, they're going to do a remake, because and this is basically like our fault, because like those Disney remakes, like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, like the reason why those are hits is because people go to see them, and like nobody likes them. Like that Lion King one was so total garbage. It was so ass. My God.
I haven't seen it. I've just been told that it was disgusting.
But let me tell you something about these Disney remakes, is that everything that you like about the original is not in any of those movies. Like that Aladdin one is so ugly looking, and the effects are terrible, and like the original one is beautiful to look at, and it's a good story, and it's very fun, and I just didn't feel it with that new one. So yeah. And also, one thing that I think why Dwayne Johnson wants to remake Moana is because he needs a franchise, because Black Adam, the movie that he did for DC and Warner Brothers, that one totally bombed. that one bombed at the box office. And actually, a lot of people in the industry are blaming Dwayne Johnson for the movie bombing so bad.
Why?
Because
he did so much work in that. He worked
but that's the thing. He did too much work on it. Like, he had his hands so deep in the production that the directors and the producers were probably afraid to tell him no. No, Dwayne, you can't do this. No, Dwayne, the story has to go this way. But Dwayne Johnson, because did you hear about like the things that he has in his contract for movies?
No.
Like, so Dwayne Johnson does a lot of action movies.
Yeah.
But in his movies, he has a contract where like, okay, the bad guy can't be like, if the bad guy lands a hit on me, I have to land as many hits on the bad guy or more, so that I don't look weak. And also, it's like, I always have to win at the end. I always have to come out on top, and I have to look cool while doing it. So he has like this whole thing where like, you know, he has to be the center of attention, the main focus. But not only that, he has to be like a total badass while doing it. So any movie that's made around him as the star, it has to follow like these strict rules. Like they can never like deviate or do something different.
That's dumb.
And so that's the thing. So Warner Brothers is kind of salty on the way that Black Adam was handled. And also Dwayne Johnson, he's not going to be in any more Fast and Furious movies. Because of his relationship with Vin Diesel, and Vin Diesel is the producer on those movies. And Vin Diesel, he's the same as Dwayne Johnson. Vin Diesel, like in his contract, it says like, oh, he can't lose a fight, and he has to look cool while doing it. And yeah, so not Vin Diesel, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, he doesn't have a franchise right now, so he's looking for his franchise, the thing that, you know, that makes him a star. Yeah, that he can call his own and that he's the star of. And you know, people still love Moana, which was very surprising because I would consider probably Moana his best movie, because I can't think of any other movies that he has that I enjoy as much as Moana. So that's probably one of the reasons why they're remaking it. But it just seems so odd to me that they wouldn't remake something like, say, maybe The Princess and the Frog. Because
The Princess and the Frog, I really liked that one when it came out.
Yeah, because that one has sort of gotten like a cult following, and a lot of people like that movie now. They didn't like it as much as when it came out, but now people like fully embrace the movie, and Disney has definitely made a lot of merch off of that movie. Because I was just at Walmart the other day with my sister shopping, and I remember seeing just like a ton of merch for The Princess and the Frog. So I'm just wondering why they wouldn't remake something like that, capitalize on that nostalgia.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically it for the news.
Okay. So are we gonna talk about the elephant in the room now?
Yeah, the feature presentation.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about it. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the 2019 art horror film, The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is directed by Robert Eggers, and it stars Willem Dafoe. You might remember him as the Green Goblin in Spider-Man. He plays the old lighthouse
sailor
keeper. Yep, the old lighthouse keeper. And it also stars Robert Pattinson, the Twilight guy. He stars as the young lighthouse keeper. So basically, The Lighthouse is the story of a young lighthouse keeper. He's being shipped off to this lighthouse in a remote island, and he meets with the old keeper of the lighthouse. And as soon as he gets there, he starts to be very disgruntled over like the living conditions and the way that the work is divided between the two men. And throughout the movie, a lot of like weird, almost like supernatural weirdness happens. Yeah, and it's a very mysterious movie. It's a very oftentimes scary and unsettling, and it's a mindfuck of a movie. It wasn't that when we watched it, it didn't really scare me as much. I was more as confused, and also my mind getting fucked because I didn't know what the hell was going on. Right. So I did call this movie a horror movie. It's not really a traditional horror movie in the way that you would think. It's not like a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street. It's an art house film, and this is like our first like art house film. So art house films are usually films that don't really follow like a traditional structure, or like or they're not made in a traditional way that movies are made, or at least the way that that normal audiences view movies. Art house films are usually like cult films, or like films with a smaller audience who appreciate their weirdness, and they're usually like smaller budget things. But yeah, so this is our first art house film, and this is our first movie that was produced by the movie studio A24, and A24 kind of specializes in these weird movies for like a smaller audience. They recently released a movie called Beau is Afraid, and that one is also like a mind fuck of a movie. I saw it recently and I enjoyed it, and I'm actually thinking of making like a full-on video of it, but that's for later. But yeah, so the Lighthouse, it is really this mindfuck of a movie. So you said that you were mostly confused throughout the movie. What were some of the things that confused you while watching it?
Well, it's like the conditions of like the work. Like in the first half, I was like, I understand he has to learn the conditions of the work, so I really didn't care that much. But once it got a little bit weird, and then got into a whole like, wait, why is he doing that? Wait, why is he so pissed off? Because the second I saw the young Lighthouse guy, the first thing I say, why is he pissed off? Because they show him pissed off so much. And I was like, what?
Well, so that's really like so this movie really doesn't like hold your hand. So unlike other movies, so oftentimes art house movies, they don't really like spell out like the whole plot, or the characters, they don't like, you know, give like their full backstory or anything. So you sort of have to sort of be engaged with the movie, and like you have to pick up bits and pieces of what's going on. So the character that you're mentioning, that's the Robert Pattinson character. For the rest of the review, I'm just gonna call him the Robert Pattinson character. All right. So the Pattinson character, he plays Robert Pattinson. He plays this young lighthouse keeper who's new to the job, and he's being sent to this lighthouse. But one thing that I like about his performance is that, or at least the writing of the character, is that you get that there's something dark within him, like he's hiding something. Even from like that first scene, like the first dinner scene that he has with the Willem Dafoe character, who's the older lighthouse keeper. Just the way that they interact with each other, you can see that he's more closed off than the older lighthouse keeper. He's more reserved, he's more introverted, and because of his actions, the older lighthouse keeper is more he grows to be more suspicious of his new young coworker. And yeah, so I really like the way that he is portrayed in the movie, because really the movie, we're basically in the point of view of that character throughout the whole movie. What he experiences, we experience. So whatever he learns, we learn. And that's one thing that I liked about the movie, is that, and again, the movie is a mindfuck, because there's scenes in the movie where like he's talking to the older lighthouse keeper, and the lighthouse keeper, either he's straight up lying to him, like gaslighting him.
Oh yeah, I saw that multiple times. He gaslight him all the time.
Or the movie is just like fucking with the audience, because there's several scenes that the lighthouse keeper and the younger one, they have conflict, because like, you know, the lighthouse keeper, the younger one, Robert Pattinson, he wants to see the light. He wants to, and that lighthouse said, no, the light is mine. Yeah, and the older lighthouse keeper, he doesn't let him see the light. But also the older lighthouse keeper, he also creates a lot of conflict in the story, because he's so like how would I describe it? He's so like overbearing. He also has like because he's the more senior of the two, so he feels that he can boss around the Robert Pattinson character more, and he essentially is his boss, because the older lighthouse character, Willem Dafoe, he's essentially his boss, so he has to
because he always I'm deducting that from your pay. I'm deducting that from your pay.
So he's always telling the younger one, hey, if you don't follow the rules, or if you don't do as I say, I'm gonna dock your pay, etc., etc. So what did you think about the characters?
I really like the characters. Angry young guy that wants to be treated the same. An old scruffy sailor man that knows what he's doing and he's been doing it for years and want to test the boy.
Maybe not test the boy, but I do feel like there's an inherent antagonism between the two characters.
No, that's what I meant by test, meaning teasing them or messing with them.
Because this isn't like student and mentor relationship. This is more like a coworker or like a boss and an underling relationship. So there's a lot of like antagonism and conflict like throughout the movie. But they do get moments where they have like scenes together where they're actually getting along and stuff like that
while they're drunk.
Well, while they're drunk, but also they're like early on in the movie, they have like conversations like during like their dinner, and they start to warm up to each other.
Only a tad bit, not that much.
But it also becomes very surprising because I feel like that's really like setting up like their relationship like in a good way. So once things start going downhill in the movie, you really feel like you're losing something in the movie once things start going downhill. What did you think about the accents in the movie?
I really like the accent of the sailor. I love the sailor talk.
Yeah, because I mentioned beforehand that Willem Dafoe, the actor who plays the older lighthouse keeper, he's mostly known for being in movies like Spider-Man and American Psycho.
You're boring me, Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's something of a scientist himself. So we know how Willem Dafoe usually talks. So he's really giving like a full-blown performance in the movie, and it almost goes slightly into parody almost because he sounds like he's almost doing like a parody of like an old crusty sailor. And even the younger character at one point in the movie says that you're just a parody, you're just a Captain Ahab parody, and that's actually very funny. And so even the younger character, he has a pretty good accent because it's the Twilight guy. You don't normally you don't normally see him in movies doing this kind of like New England type accent because he's a British guy, so he really has to put in the effort to do like this New Hampshire kind of like
I don't want to beat that guy, but
accent.
What is this Twilight thing you're mentioning?
Oh, you don't know Twilight?
The hell is Twilight?
Those movies that came out like 10 years ago, about like the girl who falls in love with the vampire, but she also has a friend who's a werewolf, and she has to choose between like, whether she's going to fall in love with like, Team Edward or Team Jacob. You don't remember that?
Chad,
you're giving me a very confused look right now.
Yes, I am.
You don't know what Twilight is. One of the biggest movie franchises ever. Of the last 15 years.
No.
You don't know Twilight.
Is Twilight.
Twilight? You don't know what Twilight is?
No, I do not.
Wait. You don't... okay. So go on your phone. Search up Twilight.
All right, go
Twilight
on my phone.
movie. Not the book series.
There's a book too?
Yeah, it's based on the book series.
What the fuck? Okay, hold up. All right, going on my phone right now, guys. I'm sorry. Don't yell at me. I've been doing shit that is not Star Rail Impact is have all hidden quests and nice features.
Come on, hurry.
Sorry.
Look up Twilight. Movie series or Twilight movie.
Twilight movies. Romance and fantasy movies in order. Twilight. That's a teen mystery enhancement. A high school student, Bella Swan, always a bit of a misfit, doesn't expect life to change much when she moves from sunny Arizona to rainy Washington State. When she meets Edward Cullen, a handsome but mysterious teen whose eyes seems to peer directly into her soul. Edward is a vampire whose family does not drink blood. And Belle, far from being frightened, enters into a dangerous romance with her immortal soulmate.
Yeah, you don't know those movies.
Director Catherine
Hardwicke,
music by Carter Burwell, distributed by.
But look up the poster. None of that rings.
One Film Flex.
Yeah, but none of that rings a bell.
Nah.
Oh my god.
Budget $37 million. What the hell?
Yeah, so you don't know Twilight.
No, what the?
How do you? You're on the internet. You grew up during this time.
Technically, I was not part of the internet. I've been part of the internet since the beginning of high school.
But you went to school with kids at that time. There was no kids at your school that loved Twilight.
No.
There was no kids at your school who had like the book in their backpack or the book in their locker.
No.
That's a fucking lie.
Not for real.
No, that's a fucking lie because it's one of the biggest book series ever, and it's one of the biggest movie franchises of the 2010s.
Never seen any of my friends. I never seen them hold that book. No.
Oh my god.
Okay, so I got the movies.
You're capping right now.
I'm not. I don't know none of this. So I'm looking at...
How can you not know what Twilight is?
Okay, so Twilight,
it's like you're saying like Eclipse, you don't know what Harry Potter is.
Breaking Dawn Part 2. What the fuck?
You don't know what Twilight is. Oh my god. You're gaslighting me, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
How do you not know what Twilight is? You didn't speak to any females during the 28 from. Dude, you didn't speak to any females from like 2008 to 2012. No. Oh my god. You're making my brain hurt. You don't know Twilight. You're literally that guy. There's a scene in Family Guy where like a guy is talking to a stubborn mule and the mule is saying, "Oh no, Kevin Bacon was not in Footloose." And the other guy's just trying to convince him, "Yes, he was in Footloose. He was on the poster. He did interviews for it." That's literally what we're doing right now.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't see Twilight.
But what the hell? Like, what were you doing between 2008 and 2012?
Watching anime, playing games, watching more anime, playing games, working.
But when you went to the movie theater, you didn't see a Twilight trailer play?
I wasn't really into movies or seeing trailers of any kind.
Like when you went to go see like some Transformers shit or something, or like the first Iron Man or whatever the fuck, you didn't see a trailer for any of that?
No.
Any of that shit? Like when you went to, oh my god.
No, I have not.
Oh my god.
What is so surprising? I don't know what Twilight is. It's the first time I'm hearing about it.
It's like you're literally saying, "Oh, I don't know what Harry Potter is."
Oh, I know what Harry Potter is.
Exactly, because Harry Potter was so big. It's like you're telling me, "Oh, I don't know what Lord of the Rings is."
I know what Lord of the Rings is.
It's like you're saying, "Oh, I don't know what Dracula is."
I know what Dracula is.
But you don't know Twilight?
No. The fuck? This is the first time I'm ever hearing about Twilight. What the hell?
You are fucking derailing the whole conversation just...
I never heard of Twilight. What the heck? How am I here to tell you this? I wasn't in that generation who liked Twilight. This is the first time I'm hearing it.
It's like, what? Like, what videos do you watch on YouTube? What kind of content do you watch?
Minecraft
do you look at in social media?
Midzan, Your Pal Roz, Badger Canadian, Jerome.
Have you even talked to a girl?
Dude, every girl always avoids me.
My god. Like, you've never gone to like a Hot Topic and seen like a Twilight t-shirt like hanging on the wall?
No.
What the fuck?
I don't know what Twilight is.
It's like you're telling me, "Oh, I don't know what Madonna or Britney Spears is."
I know who they are. They're famous people.
It's like you're telling me, "Oh, I don't know who Lady Gaga is."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, bitch, you grew up during that time. How do you not know?
Well, bitch, I was sheltered.
It's like, "Oh, I don't know what Pokemon is."
I know what Pokemon is.
What the fuck?
I choose Pikachu and Charizard to electrical fire ass.
Like I barely watched Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, but I still know what Yu-Gi-Oh is.
I know what Yu-Gi-Oh is. If you were to show me the logo or some of the characters, I would know where that is. Or what that is, but like, what the fuck? I did. What's wrong?
You should have just kept your fucking mouth shut. Because
it was a genuine question. I didn't know what it is. You said Twilight.
But listen to what I'm telling you. It's like you're telling me that, oh, I don't know what Super Mario is. What the fuck? What the fuck? It's like you're saying, oh, I don't know what the Hunger Games is.
I know what they are. I know what all of them you've been talking about.
But here's the thing. But the point I'm trying to make with like Harry Potter and Hunger Games is that they were so popular like back in the day. It's like you couldn't avoid it. It's like you're telling me, oh, I don't know what Diary of a Wimpy Kid is.
I know what it is. I've read those
because
books.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid was also popular at the same time. Diary of a Wimpy Kid was like for, middle schoolers and elementary school kids. Twilight was more for like high school kids, but still.
I don't know what to tell you. I did not know what it is.
At your school, didn't they make you like bring like your own book to read like during homeroom or something?
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
Like, I remember specifically a lot of girls, they brought the Twilight books to read during, like, homeroom. You never... And even, like, some of the teachers, I remember, like, back in my high school, teachers would, like, put posters up on their walls of, like, books and, like, movies that they like. And I do remember seeing, like, a couple of classrooms having some of the Twilight posters up.
Not on my time when I was going to school. I never seen none of those posters.
Motherfucker!
What do you mean?
It's like you're saying, oh, I don't know what Halo is.
I know what it is. I was a gamer during that time. Don't get shit on me.
It's like you're saying, oh, I don't know what Assassin's Creed is. It's like, I can't believe you.
I didn't know what Twilight. This is the first time I'm hearing about Twilight.
My God.
Like...
The gaps in your knowledge.
What do you mean? I never heard of Twilight
How
before.
Can you not know what Twilight is? It's like you're saying to me, oh, I don't know what Star Wars is. I don't know what Shrek is.
Oh my God. Sorry guys, we just derailed because I didn't heard of Twilight until today.
I just can't believe that you could be like a human being growing up from like 2008 to 2012 and not know what fucking Twilight is. It's like you're telling me, oh, I don't know what Adventure Time is. I don't know
Adventure Time, come on, be your friends.
I don't know what SpongeBob is. It's like, how the fuck do you not know what that is? I feel like I'm Jonah Hill in that scene in Superbad where like he's yelling at McLovin. Why the fuck would it be between that and McLovin?
Oh
why the fuck would it be between that and Muhammad?
I don't know what's going on no more.
You are a fascinating specimen.
How am I fascinating? I haven't heard of Twilight before.
Yes, like I said, it's like you're telling me I've never heard of Harry Potter.
Let's go back to the Lighthouse. Why were you stuck in Twilight? I never seen Twilight. I never heard of it until today. What the hell is the problem? You just broke my brain. What's the problem with that? What's the problem? I don't understand. What's the problem?
It's just... Those movies, back in the day, those movies just made so much money. The books were like bestsellers. Like fucking Target, Walmart. They had those books like in their stores. You never once came across it?
No. Because at that time I was more curious about the video game.
It's like you're telling me, what's Dragon Ball Z?
Dude, I'm an anime nerd. Come on, man. I'm a taco piece of crap.
Oh my God.
I know what almost every anime that came out in existence.
It's like I'm talking to like an Amish guy who has no computer, no TV, no phone.
What's wrong with me being in the little country? Come on.
Oh my God. I think I'm going to need a minute.
What is it? Well, I'm sorry. Chat. Okay. Comments down below. Please be nice to me, okay? I cannot say anything, but just be nice to me. This is the first time I'm hearing about Twilight, and my co-host's face is like so distraught of hearing this news of me not knowing what Twilight is.
It's like you're basically saying, What's Jurassic Park?
Oh, okay.
It's like you don't know like one of like the big like pop culture like franchises ever. Like, and there's like movies that I've never seen, but I still like know about them, but I've never seen them. But you just straight up said, "What's Twilight?" It's like almost like it's like you you don't know that it was a book. You don't know that it was a series of movies. You don't, not even the memes. You never seen any of the memes?
No.
Well, probably you have, but you probably don't know where they come from.
Probably.
Oh my god! And no, we are not going to be watching the Twilight movies for this podcast.
Oh, thank God!
No, because those movies suck.
I am more happy because I thought you were gonna say, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna sit down with you. We're gonna watch all
fuck
the
those
Twilight
movies. Those movies are
cool.
ass."
Cool,
But
cool.
But also going back to the Lighthouse, that's my point. Those movies were so ass, and they didn't really do any favors for the actors in my mind. But to see Robert Pattinson, who plays the young lighthouse keeper, he really gets to flex his acting muscles because he's not playing. Because in the Twilight movies, he's essentially playing a pretty boy, a pretty boy vampire with like supernatural powers. In this movie, he's just playing a guy, like a working guy. Stiff.
He's just a guy, just a normal guy. I'm so happy we're moving on. He's just a regular guy.
Yeah, exactly. But let's move on.
Yes, please, 100%. Please, let's move on.
So you mentioned at the top of our discussion that you weren't really scared of the movie. If you don't mind me asking, what were you expecting out of the movie? Since I did mention that it was like a horror movie.
I was expecting like jump scares, blood, gore everywhere, like dismembered parts, heads like all bloody in a tray or whatever fucking shit, like horrors, like oh, it's all night, and then oh my god, a dead head popping out right there, all been dead for a few hours. Kind of shit. I don't like any of those fucking horror movies out there.
But okay, so that's like in your mind, that's what like a common horror movie does, right?
Yes. And when you say horror, I was expecting like the beginnings all night and all giddity, everything's having a fun time. And then later at night, it gets a little creepy and creepier and even more creepier than the next night. And then starts the murdering and all the blood, gore, everything. You see everything, the jump scares and everything.
The horror is really not that kind of horror. The horror in this movie is more like something like out of Edgar Allan Poe. Are you familiar with? Yes, exactly, The Raven.
Yes, I love The Raven so much. I love it.
You know The Raven, but you don't know Twilight.
No.
Okay, but moving on. So
please, I don't want to go into that discussion.
So the horror in this movie is more something like the writings of Edgar Allan Poe, like The Telltale Heart or The Raven. And actually, there's a couple of things in this movie that remind me of The Raven.
Oh, really? What gave it all away? The seagull?
Yes,
always
the seagull.
Bugging them?
Yes, the seagull.
I really put those two together when I saw the seagull. Like, so it's like the Raven.
Yeah, so it is like an Edgar Allan Poe story. And so the horror in this movie is more dread. It's like you're dreading what is happening. And just like the mood and the atmosphere of the movie is so like uncomfortable and unsettling because 1 minute the two characters might be having like a pleasant conversation over the dinner table, but then one of them says something that the other doesn't like, and then it just shifts into just like uncomfortable weirdness. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it did that multiple times when they had dinner.
Yeah, and also there's like a lot of like superstition in this movie because like the older lighthouse keeper, the Willem Dafoe character, he's always telling the younger one, oh, it's bad to spar with the seagull. They bring bad luck because they carry the souls
of the sailors.
Yeah, of dead sailors. And there's like a very interesting scene in the middle of the movie where the younger character, the Robert Pattinson character, insults the older character. He says that he doesn't like his cooking. And so the older character, he goes into like this full on like curse, like straight up like cursing the younger guy, saying that, Poseidon is going to come and swallow him up in the sea and all this stuff. Like, I don't know it by heart, but what was interesting about that scene is that the actor, Willem Dafoe, he didn't blink for like the whole scene. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that. He didn't blink at all. That guy had like nervous steel when he was doing the whole thing.
But what was also interesting about that scene is also just like the whole look of the movie. One thing that we didn't mention about the look of the movie is that the movie is shot in a 1-to-1 ratio. So the movie is not in widescreen. It's in a square. It's essentially in a box.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not widescreen. Because if you notice on the sides of your TV screen, it's black because there's nothing to fill up that space. The movie is stuck in like this square, so it makes everything more like claustrophobic, but also it gives it almost like a timeless sort of feel, like an otherworldly feel. But it also helps in putting us in the mindset and the point of view of the main character, because it's almost like as if we are looking through the eyes of the younger lighthouse keeper. But also, one more thing I want to mention about the look of the movie is that, did you notice that this movie, even for a black and white movie, it is super like dark and contrasty?
Yes, it was. I was actually considering putting up the brightness because I thought it was way too dark.
Yeah, because that was done on purpose. So it was shot with a certain film stock that would make the image more darker. And the reason why it's more darker is because they chose a film stock that when it shoots something with like a lot of red in it, it makes the reds even more darker. Because usually red, if you use a different film stock, the reds come out more grayish. So the director, he wanted something that would read the red in a scene and make it more darker. And so because of that, so when you photograph a person, you can see that a person, their face is pretty red because of the blood in our skin. So when they would photograph them with this special film stock, it would make the faces more darker, more gloomier, because there was a lot more darkness on the face because of the blood in the actor's skin.
All right.
And so but it also helped in other scenes, like, because there's a lot of like images of like waves crashing and storm and wind, and so it just makes everything look more dreary and more dark and mysterious. And did you actually know throughout this whole movie the actors and the crew had to go through like very tough filming conditions?
Really?
Because you notice in the movie how like every scene there's always like there's rain, there's wind, there's basically like a lot of wind, a lot of rain. Yeah. That was actually happening on set at the location where they were shooting the lighthouse. It was constantly being rained on. There was like a lot of wind. The conditions were not good. There was freezing temperatures. So in a weird way, it was kind of a curse and a blessing, because even though the people making the movie probably had a really hard time, just like the content in the movie, like the shots they were able to get, and then like the performances that they were able to get, was probably helped due to the fact that the conditions were very very tough on set.
But it actually worked out because it made the whole feel of the whole thing more real.
Exactly. And so it was a pretty interesting coincidence. They really made lemonade out of the lemons that they were given.
When life gives you lemons.
Yeah, make lemonade.
So wait. So that island is real then?
So yeah,
with the lighthouse and everything?
So they did shoot on location in Nova Scotia, Canada, even though the movie takes place in New England, which is in America. So they...
Uh-oh. Give me one moment. Sorry, guys.
All right, pause and we'll return. We're going to do a lot of editing for this episode.
Yeah.
But our Twilight argument is going to be a good, like, cold opening.
Yes, when you do that, oh my God. I honestly never heard of Twilight. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's like when you told me you didn't know what pizza Pringles were.
I knew it existed. No. We don't talk about
it. You're capping right now. You're gaslighting me.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. All right.
You are an interesting fellow.
All right, we're back.
Okay, we're back. So it was very interesting what they had to go through to shoot this movie. The the lighthouse was an actual location that they found.
Really?
Which was pretty helpful because could you imagine the budget of this movie if it
they had to made it all themselves?
Yeah, if they were shooting it, if they had to build the lighthouse and everything. I do think that they had to build like the house that they were staying in. I'm pretty sure that was a set because they really fucking destroy that set by the end of the movie.
Wait. Okay, so for the whole rain thing, when it was like storming really hard and the big wave came in, did they do that themselves or did the wave itself on the ocean did it?
I imagine that was just something that they really got lucky with because there's this very beautiful shot in the movie where like a big wave is crashing behind the lighthouse tower. And so I could only imagine that they were probably like, there on location and they were just probably waiting for something interesting to happen. But because there was all these like, storm and rainy conditions happening, they pretty much got lucky. And and it really helped for the movie because like the movie does like a lot of those scenes do take place during stormy, gloomy conditions. And like the overcast skies really added like this almost like supernatural feel to like that whole island.
All right.
So for the rest of this discussion, we're gonna kind of do spoilers now.
All right.
So let's talk about some spoilers.
So what's the spoilers we're going to be talking about?
So just to give the viewers, the listeners, a little bit of context. So at a certain point in the movie, after we get to know the characters and we get to know like their character dynamics and everything, and we get to see what conflicts the movie is setting up, there's a part in the movie where everything just starts going downhill.
Yes, they just lose their sanity.
But let me just set this up. So earlier in the movie, the Willem Dafoe character tells Robert Pattinson it's bad luck to kill a seagull.
Yes.
Later on in the movie, we actually see Robert Pattinson's character kill a seagull in a very horrific scene because even though he's not killing a seagull, he's basically killing like a puppet of a seagull, but it's done so well. It looks so real. And so he kills the seagull, and then after that, everything starts going downhill. So in the movie, they tell us that the Robert Pattinson character is only supposed to be at the lighthouse for 4 weeks.
Yeah, for 4 weeks.
So after the 4 weeks are done, the movie tells us that the two characters, they missed the boat. That they slept through the arrival of the boat because they both got drunk the night before. And then as that's going on and on, the Robert Pattinson character, the younger one, he starts to lose his mind gradually because he starts to become so disgruntled because of the work, because of the treatment of the older lighthouse keeper,
and him also staying there way longer than he needed to.
And also the movie reveals the deep dark secret that the Robert Pattinson character is hiding. So in the movie, Robert Pattinson's character tells the older character, "Hey, for the last few days of me being here, can you call me by my real name, with Ephraim Winslow?" And then that's how the older character refers to the younger character, Ephraim Winslow. And then later, the older character tells the younger character, "Hey, my name is Thomas Wick."
John Wick, you mean?
No, Thomas Wick. Which is actually interesting because a nickname for like a lighthouse keeper is called a wickie.
A wickie.
And so he's a Wick the wiki. So they get to know each other and stuff, but later in the movie it's revealed, first it's revealed through a hallucination that the younger character, the Pattinson character, he is responsible for the death of a coworker, because before the character was a lighthouse keeper,
he was a lumberjack.
Exactly, a lumberjack in Canada, and he was responsible for the death of one of his coworkers.
He just stood there, lit a cigar,
and watched him like basically get swallowed up by the logs that were falling on him.
In the river, because they were in the river and they pushed the logs in the river to go downstream, which they had equipment down there to pick it up.
But you know what's funny? I've seen this movie about like 5 or 6 times before this viewing. I could have sworn, and this is kind of like a little Mandela effect, I could have sworn that there was a scene of us actually seeing the death of that character as a flashback, but we really don't get it. Like a full-on scene where we see the actual character die. I guess that's just like in my mind.
And like drowning under the wood or log?
Yeah, like a flashback, like an actual flashback.
I thought I saw that.
Well, they do show like so during the Robert Pattinson's character's hallucinations, we do see like the back of that character's head, and then we do see like a really tight close up of like that character's hand, I guess, going down into the water and drowning. So we do see that, but the way that I remembered it is that we actually got to see the whole scene. Mind you, it's been a couple of years since I've seen this movie the last time. I think it's been about a year since I've seen it, but I like the movie so much that it just stays in my mind. But I just assumed that we saw that, but no. But like I was saying, the Robert Pattinson character, he has like these hallucinations. Like he sees like a mermaid, and he thinks like he's fucking this mermaid. And
they show a lot of
a lot of skin, a lot of scales and skin. And then so everything culminates. So the climax is basically the Robert Pattinson character killing the old character, and then finally stealing his keys and going up to the lighthouse, seeing the light, which is the thing that he wanted throughout the whole movie, and then he finally dies at the end. And so that's basically how the movie ends, so a lot of people have some theories about this movie. So there's two ways that you can look at this movie. You can look at it as this is like completely supernatural. Like the two characters, the old man and the young man, are in purgatory, the space between heaven and hell. They're neither in heaven or hell. And so you can say that more like the Robert Pattinson character, you can say that he's waiting there, like he's stuck there waiting for his final judgment. Like that's why
waiting to get out of the
lighthouse. And that's why like a lot of people think like they didn't come for him, is that he's stuck in purgatory waiting for his final judgment.
And I remember you saying that, and the lighthouse represents God judging him.
It could represent God, it could represent heaven, or it could represent his final judgment. It could represent a lot of things. But another way to look at this movie is that everything that's happening is actually happening. But the only difference is that the Robert Pattinson character, he's just losing his mind completely. Everything is happening, but we're just stuck with this main character who's losing his mind completely. Like it's all happening, but it's all hallucinations of that character. I personally like to think that the movie is supernatural, that there are like supernatural and superstitious things happening in the movie, and that the final the final like scene is sort of like that character meeting his death, meeting his final judgment. You know what I mean? Because the movie ends with him having his guts pecked out by the seagulls.
Yeah, I didn't really like that because I was expecting to be tamed.
Mm-hmm.
But when he showed that him getting eaten alive by seagulls, I was like,
the way that I look at it, I kind of see that as, that's his hell. That's his final punishment for him letting his coworker die. You know, like that's him paying for his sins.
Paying for the price that he has sowed.
Yeah, so I sort of like to think of this movie as, you know, something supernatural, something otherworldly. Because even in the ways that they shoot the scenes, because we don't really see like any other land. The way that they shoot the island, we don't see like any other land or any other boats. Or even like at the beginning of the movie when he's being dropped off from that ship, we don't really see the faces of the people that he's with. Did you notice that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so like Robert Pattinson, his character, at the beginning of the movie, he comes on from a ship, and the only faces that we get like a good look at is him and the Willem Dafoe character,
and also two others.
But we don't really see their faces.
No, we did not.
Their backs are always to the camera, or they're obscured by the way where the camera is placed. So we don't really get to see it. So we can kind of like, you know, you can kind of make the assumption that these are like angels, or they're like demons, like, you know, dropping off this soul in purgatory. You know what I mean? Because also
gotcha.
Because also like the seagull can almost be like that could be like his own personal demon that's taunting and torturing him.
Nevermore.
Exactly.
Nevermore.
So, or it could be the soul of his coworker coming back to haunt him,
saying, "Why didn't you confess?"
Yeah, exactly. Like why
did you not help?
It's very much like the Raven, So that's the way that I like to look at the movie. To me, it's not that that explanation makes more sense, but to me it's more of a satisfying like experience if I think of it as, say, like a supernatural kind of thing, like an Edgar Allan Poe story. What do you think happened like in the movie? Do you think it is supernatural, or do you think it was just like we were just watching like a crazy psychodrama?
I thought, for me, I just thought everything was going crazy. Like everything wasn't. But do you think like they were like in like? Do you think it was supernatural? Do you think like, you know, it was like God or whatever trying to judge the characters? Or there was like some kind of, or this was some kind of like otherworldly punishment that the Robert Pattinson character was going through? Honestly, I thought the guy was just going crazy. That's it. I just thought the guy was just losing his humanity.
Because you know what? That explanation is not wrong, because the movie really doesn't give you like concrete answers of what is happening at that moment in the scene. So your experience is valid, same as anybody who thinks that supernatural stuff is what is happening is valid, because like going back to The Raven, like you read The Raven.
Yes, I love it.
The Raven doesn't outwardly say that the Raven is like the ghost, it's like the dead wife of the guy, the narrator, you know?
And just there to bug the hell out of him.
Yeah, and so yeah, so to me that's how like the movie works. To me, it almost does feel like an Edgar Allan Poe short story, and I really like that interpretation. Like that, to me, like that's the most fun I have with this movie, because I do like horror, and I do like it when horror movies take chances and do things differently. Because like, again, there's not really a lot of gore in this movie. There's only really one death, but they don't really show the death like on screen.
No, they just showed splatter.
Exactly.
That's it. They just showed the splatter. Nothing else. Yeah. Nothing more.
But there is a lot of like dread in the movie. There's always like the real fear of the movie comes from like, you know, like what is going to be my punishment for my sins? That's sort of like, that's how the movie is scary to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stop. Stop.
Like the reason why we're getting quiet, because I'm back looking at the whole Twilight thing.
Oh my God! Stop, I'm just like, please. Let's move on. Yeah. But also the movie does do something that I think a lot of other horror movies or thrillers but I do think that the movie does do a lot of things that thrillers and other horror movies do. So do you know this sort of theory about horror movies?
No, I do not.
So there's a theory, like mostly like from screenwriters. They believe that a good horror movie should always have like a sin in the movie.
A sin?
Like a sin. Like the reason why the things that are happening in the horror movie is because of a sin. Like, for example, think of the movie Jaws, the killer shark movie. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the thing that really drives the plot of that story forward is that the sin that the characters commit, or the sin that, you know, keeps the shark still like attacking the town, is that the mayor doesn't want to close the beach out of fear of losing like tourist money. So the sin of that movie is greed. If you've seen The Exorcist, that movie is about a little girl being possessed by a demon because she was communicating with a demon on a Ouija board. So the sin of that movie, of those characters, is speaking to evil. What other one? Also the movie Alien, the one about the killer alien in the spaceship. The sin of that movie is also greed, because the company that owns the spaceship wants the crew to take the alien back home so that they can use it as a weapon. So that's another sin. The sin of A Nightmare on Elm Street is premature justice. Because you know what happens in A Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
No, I know the movies, but I never.
So this mostly has to do with Freddy Krueger's backstory. Is that he was like a janitor at a school, and he gets found, and so the parents think that he is a child murderer, which is revealed to be true. But instead of taking him to the cops, the parents, they burn him in a warehouse. And they take their own justice. So the sin of that movie is, you can either say premature justice or vigilantism. So the sin of the Lighthouse is not
the sin of running away.
Yes, it's the sin of running away and not confronting your like your problems or like your past digressions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also like lying, like, you know, lying to yourself and lying to those around you. So that's sort of like the sin of the Lighthouse. So it's very interesting how like some people say like, oh, you can't have like a good horror movie if there's no sin being committed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to mention about the Lighthouse before we end the discussion?
It's just that I really liked it. It was really a good mindfuck.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed trying to figure out what was going on. It's like, it's really tapping into the peak of me like playing mystery games or games with lore. Like it makes you figure out why is there. It figures you why, because for a good example, I always play this game and my chat's probably like in Twitch, which you guys should check out. Jump by, but sometimes they always see me play Genshin Impact, and I always talk about how I love the lore of this nation that got destroyed by the gods.
Yeah,
and I really like any new information about that. I like going into the lore. I like reading every dialogue. I love going through every single dialogue to know what's up, what's happening. But with the Lighthouse, it piqued my interest of lore, like what's going on. What's happening? What brought this man here?
Yeah, exactly.
And I had to really put it together. But in the end, all the theories I was thinking of, like, all right, so this is happening, it just fell apart when he just went insane and crazy. I was like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely really like these kinds of movies where, like, say the main character is just completely like losing their mind. Like movies like Taxi Driver or American Psycho, where like the characters, like we're just so into the character's head that, you know, that it just becomes uncomfortable and unsettling, and it's just fun. That's like, it's really fun for me. And actually this movie has like a lot of great like comedic scenes, some intentional and some unintentional, because when Robert Pattinson, when he's fully like losing his mind, he does like things in the movie, like he says, like he tells like the older guy, if I had a steak, if I had a steak, I'd fuck it. You know? Yeah,
that's it. Like, wait, you would really fuck a steak?
Well, because like in the context of that scene, it's like they've been on the island for so long, and they're basically just drinking whiskey to like survive, and he's tired of eating like lobster and all this shit. He wants a steak, a nice medium rare steak that he can fuck.
Okay.
And there's also this one scene near the end where like after he beats the shit out of the older guy, he makes him like act like a dog. He's like, move, dog, move.
Oh my God. That was the most like where I was like, wait, what the fuck? This shit happens when
this movie really went off the rails by the end of the movie. It almost felt like one of those like Ren and Stimpy scenes where like Ren is like, threatening to beat up Stimpy. It's like, oh, Stimpy, what I'm gonna do to you, you idiot. I love that shit. I love it when like characters like fucking lose their minds and become like total fucking menaces. like Robert Pattinson really becomes a menace by the end of this movie.
I'm just gonna say this whole movie really mind fucked me. I was very confused. I was trying to figure out everything, and then at the end when they brought the dog shit in, the only thing is that I go in is, a lot of people do that in real life, and I'm sad to know that it's real.
So if you were to rate the Lighthouse, what would you give it?
I'll give it a good solid 8.
Oh wow! Even though it like fucked your mind.
Yes, a solid 8.
That's very admirable. I'm glad you enjoyed your first art movie.
Yeah, it's a very solid 8. I would have raised it a 9 if it didn't fuck my mind and they show some fucking
No, but that's okay. Your experience is your experience.
Yeah, I loved it.
I'm just really impressed that you're not usually the type of person to seek out these types of movies.
No, yeah. I am not.
Yeah, because and again, this is kind of like our first horror movie, and I wanted to choose something that would have probably appealed to you, because I didn't know how you were going to feel. I don't know how you were going to react to like all the mind fuckery.
Well, the mind fuckery was
because there's not really any gore or any like jump scares in this one.
Yeah, when I go through it, it's good. A solid 8. I loved it. I really loved it, even though I got fucked in the brain through all of it. But it was good.
Okay.
I got to say, it was good.
Yeah, so my rating is going to be a little bit higher. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. It's a very, well, I wouldn't say it's gorgeous, but it's a very interesting looking movie. The performances were really great and memorable. It made me feel so many different emotions. It kind of was a little bit too long in the middle. That's probably like the only reason why it's not a perfect movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 9 out of 10. It's one of my favorites. All right. So if you enjoyed The Lighthouse, please leave a comment or a like down in the comment section. Also, tell us how you feel about The Lighthouse. Have you seen The Lighthouse? Do you like horror movies? Do you like art house films? Tell us down in the comments. Let's give our social medias. So you can find us in many places. On Twitter, we are Anime Match Pod. On TikTok, we are Anime Match Cut Podcast. YouTube, Anime Match Cut Podcast. Like and subscribe us. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, also Anime Match Cut Podcast. And you, my lovely co-host, where can we find you on social media?
You guys can find me at twitch.tv/dragon9074. Name changing very soon, so it'll be easier for you guys to find me.
Sure.
Because I'm trying to figure out a good name to change my name, because Dragon 9 with numbers on it is way too much to remember. So I'm gonna try to find a name that is like rememberable and also easy to write down, to type down when you try to find me.
Exactly. And so you, my lovely co-host, can you please tell us what is going to be our next show that we're going to be reviewing?
I would love to, and I may butcher this name, so please, if you can, put the word I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, if there's like a poster, I'll put the poster on the video.
Yeah, we're gonna watch Canonicon anime series. It's one of the animes I watched during middle school.
All right.
It was very close to my heart. It was almost like the previous one from my childhood, that of the boy that goes to an island.
Okay.
So it's one of my this is an anime that is I seen during my middle school, which I really loved.
It's good counter programming. It's a good double feature that we got going on with The Lighthouse and then with that show. Okay.
Yes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, because when we review it, I'm going to be going on key points how much I love it so much, like the previous anime I brought from my childhood as well. So
Whisper.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please leave a like, share it, and come and join me on Twitch. I'll be streaming a couple of times. Maybe you're not going to get me, but you maybe get me today. You maybe get me tomorrow. It kind of depends. I stream whatever I have a chance.
You shouldn't have spilled your beans to me, lad.
Oh, yeah, I love that scene. You shouldn't have spilled your beans to me, lad. Chase you with axe in hand. Gaslighting you, saying you were the one chasing him with axe.
The light kills him with axe. Oh, one last thing. So this movie the movie we watched had a lot of masturbation on it.
Yes, it did. It did. We forgot to mention that.
And I joked to my co-host that the old man, there's a scene where like the old man, like he's like naked and it looks like he's jerking off. I told my co-host that when the old guy finishes, he shoots his cum onto the light, like on the actual light. And then and then just the jizz, because the light is so hot, the jizz boils and it just stinks up like the whole room.
No, stop. Stop your nasty ass, boy.
Okay. All right. And then, all right. Join us for the next one.
Yeah, we see you guys then. Bye.
All right. Goodbye.